Hello, everybody. This is Board Game Chat. I'm Myron.
And I'm Chris.
Hello, Myron. How's it going?
What's up, Chris?
Good. So, since the last time we talked, I just got a shipment, actually, of board games from Board Game Bliss.
Oh, man.
Got a bunch of games there. They had a big sale. I picked up a game called Fertility that I've been wanting to try for a couple of years for $15, I think it was. Might have been $20. And I got the new Azul. So now there's 4 Azuls, and I've got the 4th one. So Sherry and I just... Yep.
I was going to say, now, all of them were on sale, right? That's why everything was on the list and everything?
Well, no, the Azul wasn't on sale because it literally just came into stock. So that one was full price.
I'm winking
yeah. But that's what we could tell Sherry, maybe. It was on sale. It was a good deal. But yeah, no, I'm really excited about it. Sherry and I just did an Azul competition between the two of us. We played all 3 Azul games back to back. And of course I won. And it was a lot of fun. So now we can do a 4th Azul. My dream is a 4th, yes. My dream is to do like multiple tables in our place, with a game of Azul going on one table, another version of Azul there, another version there, and you sort of add up all your scores from all 3 games, or now for all 4 games, and we'll assign like a gold medal, a silver medal, and a bronze medal or something from the Azul Olympics or Olympics. There we go.
It's like Azul Game of Thrones.
Yeah, there you go. You can sit in the throne. But that's about it. Anything new and exciting happening with you, Myron?
No, I've just been chilling, man.
Yeah, well, that's good.
I actually got the game Q-Birds.
Oh, good.
Like the physical one. Because I love it on Board Game Arena so much. But I would say that's the newest thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's a good game. We've played that a lot, actually, on Board Game Arena. It's a fun one. All those little square birds. Well, today's guest, we have a very special guest from Alberta. Had to think there for a second. Her name is Mélanie Barr. Mélanie, welcome.
Thanks. Hi, everybody.
Hey, what's up, Mélanie?
So glad that you could join us today. I got that right. You're in Alberta, and
That's right.
I wrote down exactly where, but I've forgotten the name. It's a small town like where I live.
Yeah, it's a very small town, Didsbury, Alberta.
Didsbury, about an hour outside of Calgary, you said?
That's right.
Yes. Well, welcome to the show. Why don't we start with you telling us just briefly a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get going.
Sure, yeah. Well, I live in Didsbury, Alberta, which is a very small farming community. I work at the local pharmacy here. I've been in the pharmacy industry for many years. There was a period of time where I had kind of stopped that, and I was working for an education company teaching stock and real estate investing across North America, which was great. But then, the traveling gets old. So I'm back into pharmacy and board gaming as much as I can.
Very good. Very good. Mélanie, why don't you tell us how you got into board gaming?
Yeah, well, I mean, we were always big board gamers as kids. I have a brother and a sister. We're all 1 year apart, so we're fairly close in age.
Oh, nice.
And my mom used to go to yard sales all the time, and she bought every board game she came across. So we would have like a new game almost every week. And we played lots. And it's funny because my mom doesn't play board games, but she's the reason we do. And then at one point we got Catan, and we played that one every week, couple times a week for years, just because we hadn't heard of anything else. And then on my birthday in 2017, my brother, just before my birthday, he contacted me. He's like, I got you your birthday gift. He's like, do you want to know what it is? Like, he's terrible at holding secret. I was like, no, don't tell me. Just give me a hint. He's like, well, it's a board game and the word king is in it. Well, now I have to Google it. And I'm like Googling it and I find it. And I was like, I think he got me King of Tokyo. And I'm like looking at the game, King of Tokyo. And I was like, why did he get me a kid's game? Because if you look at it, King of Tokyo is very cartoony. It's
very colorful.
It's very,
monsters,
it looks like a kid's game. So I was like, okay. And then he came over on my birthday and he gave me my game. And then he had also brought Lord of Waterdeep and Dominion. And we played those 2 as well. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he's like, I know, these games are out there and we didn't even know.
There's this whole world out there that we don't even know exists, and it's awesome.
And he's like, we didn't even know about this. And it it really blew up from there. And I went back home and I was like, went full on game mode. Like, and I was like, okay, I had received a few games that had been kind of put aside and I hadn't looked into it. And I got looking into it. And then one of them was Betrayal of House on the Hill. And I played it with the boys because I have my two boys and they were, I don't know, they were like, not quite teenagers yet, but they could play it. And it was like, oh my God, they can finally play something other than Candyland. Thank God. So we got playing Betrayal of House on the Hill and I was blown away by that game. And then I also had Puerto Rico and we played it and we did like one round and we looked at each other and we said, you know what, we don't have to play this one ever again. And we packed it back up and put it aside. You don't start there. This isn't beginner entry level game.
Yeah, Puerto Rico is a different game for sure. Yeah.
Oh my God. And trying to play with little kids. And I mean, it is doll looking. Like it is not a pretty game. And they were like, we just did, okay, well, I do this action. Okay, you do the same action, you do the same action. And then we kind of stopped and like, wow, this really seems stupid. Like we just packed it away. I played it again years and years later. It is a really good game. It is a really good game, but you don't start there.
No, I understand that. Yeah.
I mean, Candyland to House on, you know what I'm saying? That's House on the Hill or whatever. That's a really big leap. And then
there was quite a few years. Like Candyland has killed playing games with my kids for me. Like I hated it. It is so boring. It is so boring. And I tell people like playing with your kids, amazing, great. You should do it. Pick a game that you will enjoy as well. Like it can't be all about the kids, but Candyland was horrible.
I've never played Candyland.
That's good.
Yeah,
don't go there.
That's good. I like a game called Cartagena. Have you played that?
I don't think I have, no.
No, it's about pirates escaping a prison in Cartagena. And I've taught it to some people and they've described it as sort of the modern Candyland or the better Candyland. Okay. And I was really offended because I'd heard so many bad things about Candyland and I've never actually played it. And I was like, but I really like Cartagena. Cartagena is not a deep strategic game. It's very light. It's great for, it's a filler game. It's great to introduce new people to. And I like it because it does that sort of, it does things in modern board gaming that, if you're only used to Risk and Monopoly and that kind of thing, that you've like, wow, this is kind of different, right?
Yeah.
But I remember I was a little offended when I was like, but Cartagena is so much fun. So I have a feeling I might actually like Candyland. But maybe...
It's all yours.
It's all mine. I can come get a copy at your place.
So you're saying...
that's long gone.
Yeah.
So you're saying that there's a game that like rewards you and like it's good for people who have low attention spans and are highly excitable, that kind of thing. We got to try Cartagena, man.
Yeah, we got to try Cartagena. I will play it with you anytime, Myron. Now, actually, I wanted to go back. You had mentioned Betrayal at House on the Hill. And that's one that I've been meaning to introduce to you, Myron. I don't think you've played that. Have you played that?
I haven't played it, no.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah. Do you want to explain it real quickly?
Yeah, sure. So you each play as a different character and you have like a tiny little miniature that you start in the hallway of this mansion. And as you go around, depending on where you're going to go, you're going to bring in new tiles that adds to the mansion that you're exploring, I guess. And each room are going to do different things. So you'll come across different items. You're going to come across different things. And then you'll get will have omen cards. And when you have an omen cards, you got to roll for the haunt. And you have like at the beginning is, okay, well, there's one omen cards. You roll all these dice. If what you roll is lower than the total omen cards around the table, you've triggered the haunt. So it's not going to happen right away. And you're going to play, and then all of a sudden at some point, it's going to trigger. And depending on who triggers it, what room it was triggered in, it's going to kind of start up one of the 50 potential scenarios. And then it's going to become that person becomes a betrayal. And then it could be that all of a sudden the character turned into a werewolf or became Dracula or different things like that. And then it's everybody against that person. So you kind of separate for a moment, read the scenario, kind of find out what your goal is and what they'll go in another room and read what their goal is. And then you kind of come back together. And now you're trying to defeat each other. It's so neat. It is so neat, so thematic. And it looks great as you build this mansion. It's an amazing game.
Yeah, you start on this one square that says like the lobby, right? It looks like the floor of the lobby. And then as your characters go into this mansion, there's a staircase and the hall and the dining room and the living room and the bedroom and that kind of thing.
You build the stage, you build
the mansion as it comes along.
You build the mansion. Those are games like that are pretty cool.
Yeah. And there's a bit of I wouldn't call it really role playing, but there's a bit of that, right? I mean, you literally one character becomes a monster, and there's actually there is a Baldur's Gate version too, right?
Yes, I haven't tried that one yet.
Yeah, I haven't played that.
So that one is more Dungeons and Dragon themed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then there's the Scooby Doo because a lot of people, when they would play that, they would actually think like you're in a haunted house and the door locks behind you and you have to work together and kind of become this Scooby-Doo episode. So they actually came out with one that is apparently really good, which I have not played yet. And I
haven't played it yet, but it does fit.
Yeah, it fits perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing a new version of that too. That's coming out of the original Betrayal.
Yeah, I've heard that. I know I get the updated bits because with you're keeping track of your sanity, of your speed, like on this little character board, and it comes with these little sliders that would fall out all the time. So I did upgrade with the one that you had like the turning wheels. You could kind of turn your wheel one way or another. So so I'm hoping that's upgraded in the new version.
Oh, I'm sure it will be. Yeah, and I'm sure the Scooby-Doo one and the Baldur's Gate one got the good components. So. Do you remember? So your gateway game was which one? Like, was it?
Well, I would say King of Tokyo was the gift, but I didn't play it right away. So it'd be Lord of Waterdeep.
Lords of Waterdeep,
of course, not counting Catan. Yeah.
Right, not counting Catan. Yeah, probably Catan, I guess, is
well, I mean, Catan was great, but it didn't lead to anything because we didn't know that was out there. So Catan was its own plateau, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Do you have a favorite game at this particular moment? Like, you can name more than one. Yeah, okay,
well,
two's
I'm going to name
bad.
two because I'm a rule, I don't abide by rules. Ashes Rise of the Phoenix Born, because that game is gorgeous. It is so beautiful. I bought it on the artwork alone and then got playing it, and it's amazing. And it's a kind of 1v1 card battle game. And but what's so neat about it is you have these dice that you roll, and depending on what you roll, what you can activate, and the actions that because you got to spend the dice to do it. And then you can bring in spells, you can bring in allies, and with the spells you can conjure creatures, and it's amazing. And I'm also a huge fan of Memoir 44, which took me by surprise. I'm not an army buff. It's not anything I'm into, but my kid is. So I was like, well, that would be great for him. And my brother had it, and he kept bugging me to play it. But like it was always when there was other people around, and Memoir 44 is a 2-player game. So I was like, well, not now. I'll come see you some other time and we'll play it then. And then I went to visit him, and then we played it. And it's one of those games that I kind of take the approach that if I'm meant to have a game, they'll cross my path. I try not to seek them out because it's going to get out of control if I do. But after I played Memoir 44, I hunted that puppy down. Yeah. It is so good. It is so good. And I guess Battle Lore would be like the fantasy theme of it. I've never played Battle Lore. But you just get your army set up, and it replays the Battle of Normandy. And it kind of says, okay, well, this is where all the armies were. And then you replay the battle, like the historical value behind it. It's great.
So you like games that are historical?
Not necessarily, but apparently with that one I do.
Because you threw in the, I'm not going to say Normandy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? La bataille de Normandie.
Yeah. Well, and then my kid loves the army thing, right? So I figured that would really appeal to him, and it did. But it's just so neat. Like, it's an amazing game. Plus I had joined a Facebook group for Memoir 44, and then somebody in there says, oh, it's great to see you and your son play. Here, let me send you some components I made for the game. And he sent me all these 3D handmade components and it looks amazing. And then you set this up
that he made himself.
Yeah. Oh, it looks amazing. It looks amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Melanie. Look. Okay.
Cool.
So you are a gamer.
Oh.
So
I didn't know that.
I need to understand, before 2017, how did you contain the energy?
I still had games, but I had, Taboo, I had Mad Gab, I had whatever Walmart had access to. So I still had a a collection of games, but it was mostly party games, right?
Right,
I mean,
right.
yeah. So and card games. I'm Acadian, so it's part of our, it's law. You have to play cards. So cribbage. We played all of that growing up. But so there was always games. I was always a game lover. I just didn't know there was great games out there.
Wow, that's awesome. And so you haven't played like D&D or like role-playing games
No.
or interactive storytelling, that kind of stuff?
No, I never got into that. I never, growing up, I wasn't doing it.
It seems like you really enjoyed like war games, like strategic battle games. Is that right? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, yes.
Your two
but I
favorite
mean, I
games are
also
two-players.
enjoy, I don't know why. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's hard to say. My collection is sitting at 415 games right now. Yeah, since 2017. So, I did good. But
That's pretty
there's
good,
a huge
Yeah,
variety of games. It's like, well, what's your favorite? It's like, well, it depends. Who am I playing with?
And
what's the
Chris, we talk about
circumstances?
this, yeah.
And, like there's, but yeah, if I'm going to say two games that makes my top two, those would probably be the two, just because they've created such an impact. When I played it, I was like, it was just one of those where you have to stop and kind of back down from the table and be like, whoa, what just happened here? I did the same with Dice Throne. The first time I played Dice Throne, I stopped the game halfway through. I said, I got to call my game store because I know they have a copy. And then I called them. I was like, put that aside. I'm coming for it today. And then I kept playing. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's good. We like that enthusiasm. That's what it's nice to hear, is when you teach someone a new game and they're just like, oh, I love this, I have to go find a copy. And, either as soon as it's done or in between bathroom breaks or something, they're like online going, yeah, this place has a copy for $40.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the best, most exciting thing. What would you say? What kind of a gamer are you? Like, are you an abstract gamer? A war gamer isn't a one. Are you like the medium weight games, the heavy games?
You know what? I am an all over the place. I enjoy it all. I enjoy it all. I enjoy most. I'm not a fan of Risk. I think that's like childhood trauma. My brother used
people either love Risk or like they're working through that trauma right now.
Me and my brother would make me play, and he's like, "Hey, we're gonna play Risk," and I was like, "Okay," and then I'm like, "Okay, I'm done," and he's like, "No, you finished a game," and then I wasn't allowed to quit, and I wasn't allowed to do suicide mission to end the game sooner, and it was horrible. So, and you know what? Like, the kids will come over, because I don't know what is with my kids' friends, but they come over and they bring Risk. I really want to play this one. Like, really? And okay, fine, we'll play it. And then luckily, the last time I played, I killed everybody really fast.
Wait, hold a second. Wait. You're like, you want to play Risk, huh?
I'm taking you all down so it can be over. And I was like, you know what? You liked Risk? Let me show you Memoir. And I showed this kid, and poor kid, he was addicted. And he begged my son to come over. Can I come over and play Memoir? And he would come over, and then eventually his parents bought him his own copy. But he just fell in love with it. And it's so much better than Risk.
Yeah. So you're an omni gamer. You'll play anything.
I really do. It's like for me, it's really all about the social interaction. I'm not a solo player. I have from time to time very rarely played a solo game, mostly to learn it. But to me, playing board game is about having people around, connecting. I allowed food at my table. I allowed drink because it's the whole social side of things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so depends on who I'm with, right? It's like, okay, well, if I'm going to be, with people that aren't playing games, well, we're not pulling the big, heavy games, right? We'll pull more the party game. It depends on how many people we have there. And then, it varies. And then with the pandemic, it's been mostly us and the kids. So tons and tons of gyrating hamsters.
Oh no.
That game is, I'm surprised the cards aren't falling apart for the amount of we've played it. But it's been like those little smaller, quicker games with the kids that'll attract their attention long enough for it. But
very good.
Yeah.
Tell us about your, do you have a gaming group or a group that you regularly game with? Or
well, Disbury's small, 5,000 people. So I used to drive. Yeah.
Like
So I
Bob
used
Cajun.
to-
That's literally
Yeah.
the population of Bob Cajun where I'm at. Yeah.
Well, exactly. So there wasn't a lot of people that I knew that played games, and I used to drive to Calgary all the time to play games there and then come home. So I ended up I created a Facebook group called Didsbury and Areas Playing All the Games, and I'm like mass recruiting and I'm hunting these people down, and it's like, hey,
Awesome.
if I can't find gamers, and I'm gonna make them,
Yeah.
right? But we have an amazing store called Pandora's Box in Olds, which is just the community next door, basically. And I was in there, and they know me now. I'm there all the time. And then he's like, "Oh, well, you must know Lyle then. He's from Didsbury. He plays lots of games too." And I'm like, I need his name. And then I went on Facebook. I hunted him. I found him on Facebook. Didsbury Small. I'm going to have some connection with somebody who knows Lyle. So I found him on Facebook, and I sent him a message saying, "Hey, I understand you enjoy board games as well. I think we need to be friends." Super creepy, right?
How did it work out? How did it work out?
Well, I would say a quarter of my collection has come from his, because I keep buying his games. We're still really close friends, So, and it's growing all the time. There was one time I found on the Facebook marketplace, somebody was selling a game, and he put on there pick up in Airdrie or Didsbury. I'm like, Didsbury?
Oh.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I'm buying a game just to find out where this guy is.
Right.
Just to find out who they are and to make a friend.
Yeah, there
Where's
you
the
go.
gaming happening at?
So he's part of my regular gaming group now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
I've found them. I was on a mission.
All right. So besides Facebook stalking people that you hear about, no, I'm just kidding. How do you find new people who are to recruit into the hobby?
Well, going to the gaming events, I was going to a lot of local board game stores that would host game nights, and I would go there and, kind of come across people, and some of them, didn't have options. Kate, we're going to be friends. You give me your number and I'm going to call you.
Great.
And we're going to play. I'm a very aggressive friend, I guess. Some people don't have a choice. I picked them, and, I've picked you. You're going to be my friend.
Nice.
But attending events like that, the gaming conventions in the area and stuff like that, it's kind of slowly grown from there. Yeah.
Very cool. That's fun. So speaking of gaming conventions, I know that you are do some work with FallCon. Is that the name?
That's
Can
right.
you tell us? Yeah.
So FallCon is will host the biggest board game convention in Alberta, and that's in Calgary. Normally it's in the fall. This year it's going actually to be at the end of August, just because of scheduling situation with everything kind of starting to open back up. So we're changing the time frame a little bit.
Yeah.
But this
COVID has messed up everybody's schedules.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So last year, FallCon was not a go. We did an online version of it, but we were allowed small gatherings of 10 people. So I did a fall can't at my house.
Very nice.
And then had some people over for the weekend for that. But so FallCon's been they also do kind of regular events. They'll host game things at different kind of gatherings that's happening. I attended one where it was the anime convention in Calgary, and that was, oh my God, that's a busy event. I'm not huge on crowds, and they're like, oh, you can go look around, and I was like, went for a minute, and I'm like, nope, I'm going back in the game room. There's too many people.
Wow.
I mean, I love people. I love big groups. I don't love crowd, if that makes sense. When you can't move and there's people everywhere, and I was like, okay, no, this is good. I'm done. I don't like Walmart at Christmas time either.
That's a good comparison. Yes. Everyone can if you've never been to a gaming convention or an anime convention, everyone can relate to that crowded Walmart experience, and no one likes that. So yeah, I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
How did you get started?
Breaks too. Oh, go on. Sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead. Finish.
Yeah, I definitely need breaks too. And I'm literally still thinking fall can't. You have a way with words, man. That was pretty awesome.
Well, I'm French, right? I had to learn English, so I'm very used to just creating my own vocabulary.
Excellent. So can you tell us more about FallCon? It's in Calgary. How many people? It's yearly. How did you get involved?
We do
what do you
yearly event. We're doing, I think it's FallCon 36, 35, 36. So it's been around for quite a while. This is our 35th, 36th year now. I'm fairly new with the group. I mostly do or help with the social media posting of it. I do kind of like this recurring post that kind of helps create the community. And that's what I got brought in to do.
Great.
But yeah, no, it's great. It's a great community. They'll do like kind of meetup events around the cities as well, locally. Kind of, I think it's a weekly thing. Like I don't actually live in Calgary, so I don't get to attend those very often. But
sure,
yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. That's nice. I know that as part of what you do with them on their social media, you participate quite a bit in What Did You Play Mondays?
Well, the best way to create content is to steal somebody else. I reached out to Chris and I was like, Chris, would it be okay if I post your What Did You Play Monday? And I mean, it's a huge following in all the different board game groups that I'm a part of. And then I post it there. And then a couple of times, like, they've contacted me, like they're texting me in the morning. Cause I do this Monday morning because you post them, then I post it. And this is happening like in bed before I get up or sometime before I start working. But sometimes I started working. It was a busy day and I'm getting texts like, where's the What Did You Play Monday post? Like,
really?
like I'm having people say, I've got my list ready. I want to post it.
That's good. So it's not only happening to me. I do get reminders from people if I'm really slow. So that's all right. Yeah. So no, I was happy when you did, and I appreciate all your posts. Thank you for reposting it. When I started hashtag What Did You Play Mondays, I wanted it to be a place where people would talk about the games that they're playing. Like, we played this game and it was so much fun, or we played these 10 games, or we slayed the dragon and we stopped the global pandemic.
That's what I like so much about it, because it really builds the community of board gaming, right?
And I thought, eventually somebody will see this and go, oh, there's a game about, a dog walking around the neighborhood. That sounds fun. I love dogs. I want to play that game. And they'll look it up and hopefully find someone to play with. So it's wonderful when, people like yourself reshare it and join in and start the conversation. And I'm so glad that it's popular. So thank you for that. Now, you also have a podcast.
Yeah. So I started a podcast at the beginning of the year. I've been wanting to do a podcast for a while. It's just, I find podcast works best when it's two people. So you have the back and forth. It's not just you talking to the great beyond, so it just works better at two person. And I hadn't found anybody that, I talked to Lyle about it at one point. So that was an idea, but he's like, I can't, I'm a perfectionist. We will never have this thing edited well enough for me to be willing to release it.
Yeah, that sounds familiar a little bit.
Well, and I'm taking a whole... Well, and I'm taking a whole different approach with it too. I do almost zero editing on any of my videos or podcasts, because if I'm going to start doing, like, it's going to become too much that I won't get it out there. So, we don't like, I mean, if there's like the sound cut off and there's like a big blank silence, sure, I'll pull that out, but that's it. Like, it's very minimum editing. So you messed up, well, that's in there. Oh, okay. Well. But just that way, I mean, it comes across genuine that way, and then it's easy to get the stuff out. Like, we've recorded our 16th podcast now, so we do it weekly. It's not aired yet. Like, we're kind of trying to get a little bit ahead because I have a busy schedule. And so, and honestly, I would say Carla has a busy schedule, but it's not. It's me. I'm the problem here. I have a busy schedule, and she has to kind of adapt around me, unfortunately. But it was neat. Carla is another one that I met on Facebook and kind of connected, and fairly early on she's like, I don't want to do the videos because I'm kind of camera shy, but I'd love to do a podcast. Would you do that with me? And I'm like, yep. So we've been doing the podcast. It's called Board Game Specialists, and yeah, it's actually going pretty smooth. I'm enjoying doing them. We do top 9 lists pretty much every week. And then, sometimes like, one time we did a top 9 pirate themed game, which apparently was my idea. And I'm putting it together and I was like, shoot, I haven't played 9 pirate themed games.
Oh no.
I'm like, my list has Pop Pirate. And I'm like, I'm not putting that in a top 9 list. So I was like, okay, going to the game store. I need pirate games.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's good. Luckily, Carla plays way more than I do.
Okay.
So she's good on putting these lists together. She's got the material.
It's great to partner with people who enjoy doing the homework.
Yeah.
I feel like Myron might be talking about somebody, and I'm not sure.
You feel a little targeted.
Yeah. Yes, I will occasionally do the homework. So your podcast is called Board Game Specialists, and you co-host it with someone named Carla.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about Carla? Or
Carla lives in Red Deer, which is about an hour on the opposite end from where Calgary is.
Okay.
So we connect about once a week. She's huge board gamer. Her collection's amazing. And I know because on our first show, I asked her which is interesting because I don't know Carla very well. So as we're doing these podcasts, I'm finding stuff all the time about her because I don't know what type of gamer she really is or all that sort of stuff. But I was like, so how often do you play? And she's like, well, I play about 3 to 4 times a week, 3 to 4 hours in the evenings. And it's like, holy crow.
Wow.
Like that's a lot of play. I wish I could commit to that time frame to play. Like I want to play that much. I just don't get to.
Right.
But so she's really, and then she went on like the board game cruise, like her board gaming lifestyle's amazing. Her and her husband own and run a restaurant in Red Deer. So she's a little bit more control of her schedule and her time, a little bit. So then that's worked out well because I'm not. So we match well that way.
I've listened to the podcast. I've listened to Board Game Specialists. It's excellent. You guys do a great job. I think what you described as genuine, it definitely comes off. I feel like I've gotten to know you guys from listening to it. So, I mean, you and I have only spoken very briefly online a few times before this, but I feel like I know you a lot more from just listening to you talk about games, which is
I've been Facebook creeping you as well, so I feel the same way.
Yeah,
I was like, my friend Chris. I was like, when did you meet him? Well, actually, I haven't. I still consider him a friend. I don't know.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
So here's a question I have, though. Do you think that it's a matter of like how social media and technology has connected us? Or is there something intrinsically unique about gaming in the community? Because that's how I met Chris. I moved from Chicago in the United States to Scarborough, Ontario, and I was here alone. Anna, my wife, she hadn't been here yet, and I was like, okay, it's Saturday. I'm gonna go and get some friends. I'm going to go to the local gaming store. And as soon as I got there, AJ was like, oh, Chris is here. You have to meet Chris. And then I was like, Chris, when can I come over and play games at your house? And so
we had you Friday, there 3 days later or something.
Yeah.
2 days later.
Yeah. So I've done that before. I was in the United States Navy and I had to move to Florida for only 6 weeks. Wow. Well, I need some friends fast. I'm going to the local game store. What do they sell? Dungeons and Dragons. All right. I'm headed there, blah, blah, blah. I moved to California for a little bit in the Navy, and it was the same thing. So is it something intrinsic in the board gaming community in particular, or is it just the technology?
I would say, when I did the real estate training, I would kind of teach people how to network using the social media. Because I'm from Didsbury. There's not a whole lot of investors in Didsbury, and I had 2 young kids at home, so I can't be attending network events all the time. So I really developed the social connections and how to kind of create your social exposure, I guess, that way. So it comes across that way as well. You'll see it that way. But I mean, in real estate, when you're trying to connect with other people, it's because you want their money, right?
Right.
I can imagine you being like, well, for playing games, you want to make people happy. I'm like, hold on a second. I know you didn't say that, but
No, but I mean, like, it's a definite, like, with a board game, like, it's the most inclusive group I have come across, because everybody's out there kind of trying to look for the player, right? Because, okay, it's Thursday night, I want to play games. Who can I play games with? You know, like, and everybody's kind of gets in that same boat. So it's a very inclusive group, I find. I haven't come across a lot of other environment like that is quite like that. I mean, as like I said, with the real estate, definitely you get that because your network is you know, your net worth. That's what it's all about. In stocks, not at all. That's a solo game, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, I think there's something to that. Definitely what you said makes a lot of sense. Like, we are all trying to grow and make the hobby bigger because we want more people to play with. But
it's completely
also
selfish.
Yeah, it's a little selfish, I guess, in that way. Yeah, for sure. But there's also there's an element of, like, if I meet somebody who's played games for 16 years and I can teach them a game that they haven't played just because there are so many games, there's this really neat experience of, I love teaching someone. It doesn't matter if they're brand new to the hobby or if they've been together, been gaming for 20 years. I love teaching someone a new game and having them enjoy it. Obviously, if they don't like it, that's a different experience. But there's something about that I feel like we all sort of crave. Would you agree with that, Melanie?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's kind of neat to come across new people, see, like, I mean, with everybody you come across, you'll discover new games. You get to share some of the games that you've discovered yourself, and it's like, oh, you haven't played, like, I gotta show you this game, and then, like, oh my god, and then they buy it, and then they, like, so it is neat to see that growth, and then the sharing and how that all comes together. So yeah,
it seems like there's also like an element of service involved with it as well. Like back in the day, you would invite everyone over to play cards. The cards were like the minimum scaffolding to have an activity to do, but like really what you're doing is you're sitting and enjoying the company of other people.
Yeah.
But like the aspect that you just talked about, Chris, there's an aspect of service. I'm going to invite people over. I'm going to prepare some snacks. I'm going to learn the rules and like show them this game. There's a lot more service involved. For me, it seems like very similar to being like in like a music group or like an orchestra or like team sports. There's like an aspect of like mutual respect when you show up to do this activity together, and like those activities by and large are more like lifestyles more than they are like an occupation or something that you do. And I think that's like just trying to like come up with like what is a framework that can be thought about when it comes to the differences we all feel when we're engaged with the board gaming community.
Well, it's such a big community, right? Like, I mean, and like just talking about games, I mean, we can all be gamers for the last 30 years and it's not going and have collections of hundreds of games, and it's not going to be hard for us to find, a dozen or more games in my collection that Melanie's never played, and a dozen or more games in Melanie's collections that I've never played, and teach each other things about the hobby that we didn't know, you know what I mean? And have new experiences that way. And like you touched on it, Melanie, saying the people in the hobby it's a very diverse group, of all ages, of all backgrounds. And I think that plays an element too, is because it's a social activity. It's about who you play with more than what you play. And it's about and it's about the experiences we share together, not about who wins or whatever. Although I do track that now as my stats.
I mean, too.
Hashtag nerd, hashtag geek. But it's not about who wins. It's about the social experiences and the friendships that we make. And my board game friends came to our wedding, and I've been to board game friends' weddings, and we go to our board game friends' houses and stay over, and we play games all day, and they come to our house, and they love our dog just like we love our dog, and that becomes your community, right? Like that becomes everything. It's hard to, I think it's like you said, Melanie, you said it's unlike anything you've experienced elsewhere, and I agree. I've been parts of other communities, my neighborhood community. I've been parts of other hobbies and different things, but there's this sense of welcoming and I don't know, just community that exists in board gaming that I've not experienced anywhere else.
For sure.
Yeah.
There's a warmth there to the community.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on the subject of friends, I was wondering if you had friendships that you've made through board gaming, Melanie, that you could share or want to share or talk about some of the people that you've met and what they mean to you.
All of them.
All of them. Yeah, it's good. Now I'm asking you to leave someone out, right? How many hours do we have?
You have to start with the academy. You gotta
there's a big group. Well, it's funny because the first FallCon I attended, I went by myself. And so I'm forcing myself on people. So I'm walking around and I noticed this group of people sat down and they were starting to play Oh My Goods. And then I was like, hey, I bought this one just last month, but I haven't played it yet. Do you mind if I sit down and watch you guys play? And they're like, yeah, sure, sit down. And so I'm watching them play. And one of them that was playing, I was sitting next to is Greg. Now, Greg lives in Lethbridge, Alberta, which is, I don't know how far, I want to say 3, maybe more hours away. So it's we wouldn't have connected in any other way, right?
Right.
But Fred became my go-to go-to board game convention guy, or every time I want to talk about board game, I'll be like, oh, Greg, this is a new game I got. And then we got talking about it and then that sort of stuff. And which is really nice because, as I mentioned, I used to drive to Calgary to attend game events, but then I'd have an hour drive back home. And Greg stays up really late. So it was great. I would call him up on the drive home on my Bluetooth phone, completely legally. I would call him up and be like, oh, we got to play this one and this one. And we talked like the whole drive home. And then he comes to my Melcon, he comes to my Fall Cant, and he does the trek just for these little kind of home events. So nice. That's one of the friendship that I've definitely made that way. Duncan's another one that I'm pretty good friends with. He's, he's an amazing board game designer, but he hasn't published anything yet. I think he gets to be a bit of a perfectionist, right? But he's got a couple of games out there. And then honestly, he's got a card game that he's designed this year and I've played it and it's my favorite game of the year. It combines two aspects that I have never seen together and it's amazing. And I really hope he publishes this one. And if he doesn't, I don't care. I'm making myself a copy because it's mind-blowing. It is mind-blowing. I was playing it with my other friend Michael, who's also part of the FallCon group, and because Michael and Duncan had played it together, and then so Michael had made himself like kind of a version of it to be able to show me, and then he came over and we're playing it and I'm like, oh my God, what's that? It's like, it was so good. And I'm on the phone right away. It's like, oh my God, Duncan, this game is incredible. And I hope it published because I need it. I need this game. It's so unique and it's so good. And I can't say anymore because I don't know what he's doing with it. But
yeah, no, that sounds good. I've definitely been there. I've play tested a few games. It's like, okay, I want to publish this game. I don't publish games. I have nothing to do with publishing games. But can we figure it out? Like, let's get going.
This one has to happen. Like this one has to happen.
I want to buy it tomorrow. Well, that's good to hear. Very good. So I know the other thing that you do from listening to your podcast is something called Games and Couples.
Yeah. So this is something that's kind of really touched close to me. In 2018, I separated from my 18-year relationship. That messes a person up. When that happened, sure. And it wasn't, like you have some things like, wow, this relationship is really not working. It wasn't like that. It was just kind of like snap, all of a sudden something happened. This is done. Mm-hmm. And one of the first thing I did is I contacted mental health at my local hospital. It's like, because I know this is going to screw me up. I'm going to need help. So I contacted, it was funny because they had to call me to do the triage. And he's like, okay, what's your name? What's your marital status? I'm like, under review.
I'll get back to you. Like, I'll look back. Like,
I don't know right now. That's why I'm calling you.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah. Wow. So
You know,
It was-
first, I want to interrupt you. Sorry. I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic that you did that, because I think, you know, breakups of relationships of any kind is such a life-altering thing.
It really
And
is.
so many
Yeah.
people just kind of say, well, you know, I've had breakups before. That person's a jerk, and they try to move on with their life. And I think, you know, a person's mental health is essential to, you know, living a good life. You know, we worry about
it is so important. It's just mental health is not something that just happened. It's something you got to work on.
Yeah.
You got to work on making sure that you're in a good state of mind, that you're happy, that like it's something that you got to put some effort into.
If you fell and hurt your arm, you would go to the doctor for that.
Right.
And, you know, your
put a Band-Aid,
relationship
nothing else, right? Like you do something.
And your relationship ends. That should be the first reaction of all of us. So very, very good to hear that. I'm glad to hear it, and I, you know, applaud you for that. And
yes. Yeah. So that's what I ended up going to counseling. And that's also what really propelled me into the board gaming. I couldn't stay home. If the kids weren't home, I could not stay home. I was not in a good space. I was not in a good frame of mind. So I left. I went to game events. I went to local game store and found people to play games with. I would contact my friends, like, who do you know that's having games tonight? And then I would contact them and say, hey, you don't know me, but I hear you're playing games. Can I join? Like, I did what I needed to do to make it pass through that time. And I remember during my counseling session one time, she asked me, she's like, Melanie, how do you cope? And I said, honestly, I play board games. And I was like, and for those 2-3 hours that I'm playing board games, my life is not a mess. It's not about that at all. I'm not even thinking about that. I'm just trying to be king of Tokyo, you know, or whatever it is that I'm doing. And it was the most amazing escape. And it made me able to cope until I could have the time to heal, you know? So, and she said, I love it. She said, I love it. I think you should play as much as possible. And I was like, are you sure? Because I'm playing a lot.
You're like, yo, like.
But like you said, it's great because it's social. It's not self-destructive in any way. It keeps me out there. It keeps me going. It keeps me, you know, it was just an amazing escape for me, and it worked great. And that's when I signed up to go to my first FallCon, and that's why I went by myself. And I started posting games. Every time I played games, I'd take pictures, I would post them. I went to one of the local game store in Calgary. It was called Shoebox, and I went there and I'm looking at games, and I'm going home with something. I just don't know what yet, you know. So I'm looking at all the different games, and then I look back, because they have this big room with a bunch of tables and people that can go and play games there. And I look back, and then there's 3 or 4 people staring at me, and I kind of go back to the games. I'm like, oh, that was weird. And then I look back again, and they're still staring at me, and I'm like, and I'm like, okay, what did I do? Do I have something on my face, or like? And then all of a sudden, one of them comes over, and he's like, hey, you're Melanie, right? From Facebook? I was like, oh,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, hi. So then when I attended the FallCon, and I sat down with my friends, well, my now friends, to watch them play Oh My Goods. While I was sitting there, 3 or 4 people stopped by the table to introduce themselves. Oh, hi, Melanie, right, from Facebook. I wanted to say, just wanted to say hi. And then they kind of went over, and the guys at the table like, are you a celebrity or something? And I was like, well, you probably should get my autograph.
That's awesome.
And then that's when FallCon approached me. He's like, Melanie, we had a meeting and kind of discussed who could help us with our social media, and your name came up. And I was like, well, I wonder why. So and then that's how I joined the FallCon group. And then, I mean, and I've been posting, I've been sharing your post, Chris, and then I've been posting all the time. I do the hashtag Treat Your Shelf Tuesday and kind of share.
Treat Your Shelf. Oh my God, Melanie.
So I kind of post all the new games we get every week that way. And I just have a really busy presence on the social media.
You do,
and yeah. So then on the Edmonton group I was as well. And then this is when Games and Couples reached out to me and they're like, hey, we really like what you've been sharing. This is what we're doing. So they do couple counseling, utilizing Boardgame as one of their main tools for couples to connect, reconnect, or stay connected. And depending on where they're at in a relationship, it's like, we would love to have you part of this. And I was like, oh my God, I would love to be part of that, because with my personal background and how, taking care of your mental health, taking care, like with my couple, would that have helped me? Maybe. Honestly, don't really care. I'm in a happy relationship now, and I would wish things to be no different. But I love the idea of what they do. And so I reached back and I said, I would love to, but I feel I should let you know I'm divorced, because maybe that's not good.
That could be maybe that might be an issue for them.
But they said, and I kind of talked about my experience and what I went through, and then they said, actually, we feel that kind of makes you perfect. So I do for them just, I kind of added the What Did You Play Monday on their post as well, as to build that community. I do, kind of sponsored Game of the Week. And what's really neat is they've created a rating system that helps couple decide if a game is what they need for where they're at now. And it rates things on two things. It rates on communication and potential for connection. Now, it's a 1 to 5 rating. 1 is not bad. 5 is not good. It depends on where you're at. So a game like Patchwork. Now, there's a lot of opportunity there to maintain a conversation while you're playing. It's fairly low key. Now, if you're playing Chronicles of Crime, now I'm sorry, we've got a crime to solve here. We don't have time to have a conversation. Stay in the game, so those are two different extremes. But depending on where you are as a couple, if there's been a lot of uncomfortable conversation, maybe you want to keep a game on the lower end of the conversation. Or if this is when you come together and you're trying to reconnect as a couple. I mean, I think throughout the pandemic, a lot of couples kind of found that out, like all of a sudden we're spending all this time with our spouse and I don't know if I know who he is anymore, or, or who she is anymore.
Or I don't want to know.
So trying to reconnect as a couple, that could be where there's more conversations helpful. The second thing they rate on is getting to know you. So, if you're playing a game like Chronicles of Crime and maybe they're terrible detectives. Maybe I don't know what you're thinking, but why would we go there? Or just seeing how they think, what they're, you're going to start learning more about your partner. Or maybe, as in Patchwork again, you're doing your own thing. I'm not even looking at your tableau. I'm building my own quilt here. So that's not really a game where you would get to learn a lot about your partner. And then the other thing is that they rate on is hurt feelings and potential for conflict.
Ooh, that's a big one with couples, with gaming as a couple.
It is. And it depends on where you are as a couple. Could be that things are tense. Things are, they flare up easy. I don't recommend you play Munchkin then. Or maybe you are trying to work on your conflict resolution. And then maybe having a game that has a little bit more of that creates a safe environment to work on those kind of skills. So it's really, really interesting. I really like what they do.
That's fascinating. That sounds, I don't really know of another organization that sounds anything like that. That sounds fascinating. But I got to ask, where would you put Memoir 44 on those two scales?
Okay, so on those 3 scales. So for so for conversation, I would put that 3 or 4, because you're looking at your cards. There's a lot of strategy. You can definitely chit chat in between doing all of this. This isn't like a high action game. In the getting to know you, I would put that up there as well, because it's kind of like, I can't believe you went there. It's like shooting fish in a bucket, or
right. Or this person's really sneaky,
And then all of a sudden, oh wait, it was an ambush all along. Where did this come from? So it's interesting to see how the decision they're making. As far as hurt feeling and conflict, I put that one as neutral. This is a war game. So you should be expecting that on their turn, they're going to try to kill your troops because
Right.
that's what the game is all about.
Right.
You know, so now if you're still uncomfortable with this, then I think that's a personal issue now. It's not so much as a couple issue, but this is what the game is. So now it'd be one thing if, you know, we're trying to build this thing, but you could also destroy. And if you concentrate on this destroy, now like potential for conflict goes way up, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, why can't you just build? Like, leave me alone.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good point. I was thinking you would say quite high for Memoir 44 in conflict, but that makes perfect sense. You go into it expecting it's a war game. It's going to be a conflict in it, but it's not the kind of game that where you can, you know, use underhanded tactics and mess with the other player's strategy or just completely
You're
destroy
kind of at
something.
the mercy of the cards too, right? But yeah.
That's a good example. Sorry, did you have more to say about games and?
Yes, I've been doing that the game of the week, and then on the last Friday of every month, I started a game night, date night video series where I just kind of talk about all of those games in a little bit more details than I can put on a post, right? So no, it's been amazing. Like I said, I haven't come across anybody that kind of do what they do. And I love it. I love what they do, and I'm glad to be part of that.
I love the story of someone coming up to you and say, "I've seen you on social media. Are you the Melanie from Facebook?" It's a very personal story to me too. I had someone come up and say, "Are you Chris from Instagram?" And it's a weird experience. It's like, am I a celebrity? Why do you know me? And I guess I do. Well,
at first I'm like, I don't know. What did you hear?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm not committing yet.
and there's a lot of Chris's on Instagram. I don't know. What are you talking about? This is very confusing. I don't work for Facebook. What are you talking about? Right. But it does show you the power of social media, I suppose.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like one time I won a game on Man vs. Meeple Chit Chat, and I had people on Facebook that I had not met, didn't know they're somewhere in the States, but they're messaging me, "Hey, I think you're a winner. Go check out this episode." You know, it's like, oh, okay. And they just remembered me from all the posts I'm putting everywhere. But yeah.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. I wonder, so what would you say that you've learned as a gamer, as a board gamer? What have you learned as a board gamer?
I don't know, that I have no self-control.
Yes, that shopping cart for me is tough too.
Well, you know, like I said, I don't shop online very often. I'm really doing the approach of like, if it was meant to be, they'll come to me. But they come to me. They come to me too much.
They do, yeah.
That's true.
Well, and then when I met, because I was single for about a year. And then afterwards, I was like, okay, is it time? Am I ready to date? It's like wanting to have somebody to play with, reason enough. And I decided that it was. So I started. Now, like, you keep in mind, like when I met my husband, that's what I call my ex-husband. So when I
love that. That's fantastic. My husband.
Well, yeah. So when I met him, I was 20 years old. You know, we were together 18 years. I was 39 by the time I decided I was going to date again. That's scary. That's nerve-wracking. I was like, okay, sure. do I want to do this again? So I went on Facebook dating because, you know, 39-year-old men out there aren't normally single. Right. And I don't want to be doing my bad flirting on married man, you know, so I was like, let's narrow this down.
The details, yes.
You know, so I created my profile on Facebook dating, and I was like, I haven't dated since I was 20 years old. I'm now the plus size version of my old self. Be gentle, must play board game.
Awesome.
And I met Lee fairly early. I thought, you know, honestly, I thought this whole dating process was gonna suck, and I was like dreading it. And then I met Lee almost right away, and it worked out great. And it just, things clicked. And he's not a gamer to the extent that I am, but I mean, not a lot of people are. You know, so,
he's learning.
He'll play.
Fair enough.
And then I remember when he came over the first time, and I'm showing him the board game collection. Like, this is a test.
Right. Yes. Yes.
I've got a 5x5 Calyx, and it's full, and I've got board games on the floor, and he's looking around and he's looking at all the games and he's looking at the ones on the floor, and then he kind of looks around the room and he looks at me and he's like, you could fit another shelf in here.
Oh.
And you were like, okay, this is
Done.
it. This is the relationship.
This is the guy for me.
You passed the test, mister.
And then some. That was like, hey, this is fate.
That right there is the dream first line of every single spouse of a board gamer. You can fit another shelf in here.
It's a bit of a problem, though, because he's an enabler. So nobody's holding me back now. I'm like, we're almost overrun by board games. And it was bad. This week, I bought 12. A couple weeks ago, I had 18. Now, most of my games are secondhand. That's kind of how I do it. But there's a lot of games coming in right now. And I'm not good at purging. Like they're almost very little. I did go through the games, and I've put 16 aside to maybe get rid of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm a little bit proud.
That's the first step. I'm thinking about getting rid of these ones, and let me put them over here to decide if I'm ready.
I've shared it with some people, given price, but it doesn't mean just because they say, okay, I'm willing to sell this one, doesn't mean it will. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm going to Gobfest, which is a board game convention in Edmonton at the end of this month. And a friend of mine who's going there has a table for their board game flea market thing. So I'll bring them. Oh. But you know what? I'm coming with more. Right?
Yes, always the case. Yeah. Well, that's why it is important to have an in and out process of some kind. They doesn't have to be equal numbers. It has to be some going out before some come back in. Yeah.
No, I've got the in down. The out hasn't really happened all that much yet.
Yeah, me either. I have a few games that are still in the shrink wrap because I played them and I was like, I need to have this game. They're like the D&D games though, like Shardalon and Drizzt, Duerden, and Ravenloft. Yeah, those were, but like, I just don't want to get rid of them because I'm like, okay, all right, they're collector's editions now, right? Like, you can't find them anywhere. So like, I mean, yeah, I see the nods and yeah. They're like,
it's so easy to do.
Yeah.
But now, like, I got a shelf in my bedroom. It's half board games now. There's books on the bottom half, and I'm like, I don't need these books. these could go.
Yep, there's always room for more. There's always
in your books for more board games.
Yep, it's very true.
Yeah, no, I'm all in. I think,
everybody's reading books on their phone and their tablet now. So
exactly. The only thing though is I would read before bed, and it hurts a lot more when you drop the tablet on your face because you're falling asleep.
Yes,
but you don't lose your spot.
Yes.
So many similarities between you and I, Melanie. That's hilarious. I love that. It's very true. I have what I call a 3-nod policy before I fall asleep. So when I'm reading, the book kind of drops, and sometimes it goes towards your face and sometimes it goes towards the bed or the floor or something. The first nod is not nearly enough. Like, okay, I almost dropped the book, but if I put it down and fall asleep now, I will be sitting awake thinking about, because that book falling motion and me jumping to catch it from falling.
It kind of resparks you so you're awake again.
Yeah. And the second one, you're like, okay, I'm almost ready to fall asleep, but that jarring motion kept me awake just a little bit more. It's the third nod, like, oh, okay, now I'm ready. I can fall asleep. And that's when I put the book down.
Yeah.
I don't even try.
After the second one, that's the one that I actually set my alarm for the morning. Like, okay, all right.
Oh, I'm
like really getting ready. So next time I can just like go to sleep and I'll wake up on time and everything. So that's the piece of that I add to it because I can't track time. So
it's a good call because sometimes you fall asleep after the third nod, like with the book right there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't even have time to put it down. You're like, I can't. Well, this has been an absolutely absolute joy to talk to you and to listen to your story. Thank you so much for coming on. At this point in the show, I always like to ask people, what you're doing now, what's happening for you in the near future, and where can people reach you online and follow you on social media? You've got a lot, so take it away. Tell us everything that you're doing, and where can people find you?
Well, I got my local Facebook group, but it's a private group. But if you want to join that one, it is Didsbury and area is playing all the games. I am all over Facebook though, so you will see me on a lot of different groups. On Instagram, I'm Boardgame_Mama. Now, Mama means mom in French, and for some reason I've got a lot of UK followers, and they Boardgame my man, and I'll go with that too. So Boardgame _
hey my man, that's
mama,
like hey my man, how's it going?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It sounds cool,
okay.
It's like
it works either way.
Right?
Okay.
It's like your kids calling you dude. But and then on YouTube, my YouTube channel is Boardgame Mama as well. And then my podcast is Board Game Specialists.
Very good. And I know that you post the podcast onto YouTube as well. Do you do that for every episode?
Yeah, I do. Just not everybody, I don't know. I sometimes like to listen to the podcast on YouTube as well as on the podcast players. I'm a little bit everywhere. That's like when I do paperwork in the back room, I set up, my coworker's like, oh, you're such a nerd. It's like, yeah, no, it's great. And then I'll play that, and then I'll do my paperwork, do the deposits, and then I'll have all sorts of podcasts that's playing, or YouTube chat. And I gotta say, personally, I like the episode of YouTube's to be longer, because it's really annoying if after 10 minutes it's done, you got to go find the next one you want to listen to. Give me an hour.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I like to put on a YouTube while I'm working and listen to different things. So and we Board Game Chats posts on YouTube as well.
Yeah, I've watched it there.
All right. Well, thank you again so much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great.
It's been so nice to finally see your face and chat with you in person rather than online.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Board Game Chats with Chris and Myron. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, check out their website at boardgamechats.com, or drop them an email at boardgamechats@gmail.com. You can also find Board Game Chats on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.